don't make this beat.
I came to, there's the camera. I came to Fredericksburg, Virginia. Virginia, and I'm cold. It says it was established in 1720, but before that, it was indigenous people. Rappahannock people were here first. Captain John Smith came up through these parts while going up the Chesapeake Bay and came across the Rappahannock people. They weren't so keen with the English. They like shot at them and stuff with arrows, and one guy got hurt, and Captain John Smith got a interpreter to speak, and this poor guy who got hurt told John Smith about the area. Some historians believe that the Rappahannock was like a boundary for the north and the south. The Falmouth Bridge was a fishing camp, which makes sense. It may have been the Rappahannock settlement back in the 1600s. Anyways, they left and merged with another tribe once, I guess, everything happened. I'm not exactly sure. The Rappahannock was Algonquian for the word meaning quick rising. I came to Sunken Road. So it got its name Sunken Road because so many people came this way to trade, sell their crops or harvest, and it got like sunken from erosion. So they built the walls to help protect it. So the homes on this road like catered to the people crossing it, like helped them. So Martha Stevens owned the land here, and she built a house for her son, John Innes. Yeah, John Innes. And it was just built, and then the war hit. She was known to be in court a lot for having an unlicensed tavern. Cobb's burial tomb, it was one of the first to get put here, and he was from Georgia. He was a lawyer. He fought here with 1,500 other men He wrote a book about how defending slavery, and he died by bleeding to death. So he was here. He was a Confederate. So that became a hospital and was a house of a lawyer first. Well, I was denied to go in with video camera because some stuff was on loan and you can't put it out there like that. So you saw the outside. We are going to go do an interview with not historical, but like someone who has been here their whole lives and never wants to leave. A historian, if you will, from Fredericksburg, about Fredericksburg.
Digging this music.
All right, it was your first job. So do you just like go around showing people tinctures and
My acting career is ruined. I'll never get a SAG award now.
funny? No.
And see.
I know.
It was. The apothecary was my first job. I started there when I was 14 years and 3 months or whatever legally I had to be in Virginia. I had already been volunteering there for years ahead of time because my mom had a job there. So anytime I was out of school or I didn't have anything to do and she was at work, I'd tag along. So I would have a little costume as a kid at like 9 and I would take people's money or they'd give me just dumb stuff to do. So then it was sort of natural.
So
that
cute.
As soon as I was old enough to get a job that I called the place lady that ran it and she gave me a job. And I stayed there until I was in my 20s. And then I went back for a little while after my son was born for a little stint, and then now I just go in there and harass them periodically, but my mom still works there.
Ah. What is the apothecary?
Apothecary is an 18th century pharmacy. That's what it would be referred to as. So anywhere that you would
Do you
get
need something?
A box
yes.
for all of that?
How many?
Just one, or you don't want them touching?
let me get 2 boxes.
And then check. Yeah, what's an apothecary?
An apothecary is an 18th century pharmacy.
Oh yeah, and so like, do you have stuff there that's like medicine you can buy now, or is it
No,
just?
it's all just for display. Some of that you wouldn't want to buy because I think they may not have it there anymore, but when I worked there we had a bottle of mercury and we also had a bottle of antimony because those were both used as medicines at the time.
Oh,
So because it was all based off of the humoral theory of medicine.
what's that?
The humoral theory of medicine was commonly believed at the time to feel that your entire body is made up into 4 humors. And
Oh.
anytime that you're ill is because...
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, what now? The four parts of the humor?
Your 4 humors.
4 humors.
Yes. So your body is made up entirely of these 4 things, 4 humors. And anytime that you're sick, it is because your humors are out of balance.
Oh.
So that's why medicine was really big into purging at the time, is you had to get rid of whatever excess humor you had so that we'd be back in balance again and then you'd be well.
And that's why they bled people?
Yes,
Ew.
because blood is one of your 4 humors.
Ah.
So you have yellow bile and black bile.
Mhm.
I think you can
Yeah.
figure out what those are. And then you have blood and phlegm. So blood is blood, phlegm is any clear liquid that comes from you. So that is going to be sweat, it is going to be saliva, it's
So it's really
phlegm,
focusing on the
anything like
liquids of every shape and form.
that. Yes, because we're all liquidy. We don't have a really good idea in the 18th century of human anatomy because the Church of England still does not allow it. So there isn't a lot of study on human parts and knowing how they work. So there's a lot of guesswork here.
They didn't have the England Church.
Church of England was not allowing study of cadavers, at least in British medicine. So this is, again, if we're in colonial era, this is going to be British driven. medicine. So yeah, it's still frowned upon.
Wow. So you couldn't even look at the anatomy. It was just all based off the liquids that you were producing.
Yeah.
So if your
look at,
phlegm was green,
illustrations
then
and stuff from the time, it's very interesting where they think everything's at.
wow.
'Cause, yeah,
And then they would medicate you based off of that?
So yeah, you'd be medicated based off the humoral theory, and they would have different ways to tell which ones were out of balance. It was all these purges. So that's why you have all the bloodletting. That's why you have bloodletting, and the amount that we did is because we thought that we had way more blood than we actually did, because again, we couldn't do proper study. So I believe they thought that we had about 5 times the amount of blood in the body, which is why they were bleeding you for, pints and pints and pints and pints, like
Wow.
huge amounts of blood, because they thought, you got more. That's
Wow.
why they had all of that. That's why you had things like mercury that was taken medicinally, because it is a toxic metal. So it is going to cause you to, in all the directions. So it's a great purge. It would cover other stuff. But they had other things that would just make you sweat to get things out of your system. So
Ew.
it was always this process of doing all this to balance them out. Was it successful? Not so much. A lot of these things didn't go well. It was medicines that we have at the apothecary. Some things are more symptomatic treatments, and that's stuff that you still find in medicines today. One of the common ones is marshmallow root, which isn't what marshmallows come from. It's just a swampy plant that's native to here, but it was used as a cough remedy. But there's a big resurgence, and you're going to find a lot of like hipster health food stuff of health cough treatments is marshmallow root based.
Now? Huh. Hold on one second. Okay. All right. So, tell me something that you think is really cool that people don't know. Like I didn't know about that. 4 parts of the.
Oh, other neat stuff about 18th century medicine.
But I mean, what do you think is like the coolest fact?
Coolest fact. I know the coolest part of the tour that I liked to do.
Oh, yeah, what?
That I wasn't supposed to do because it was too trying for people to have to hear is trephining.
What?
Trephining. That's what they would do for concussions.
What is that?
It is essentially like a corkscrew with like a circular teeth to it at it allows you to drill a hole in somebody's skull. So they would do that, pop it out, let the fluid drain. Of course, that's going to be great for healing up afterwards. And then they would just pull your scalp back over and sew it up. It had a mortality rate of like 80%, so not super effective, but it's not like you had a lot of other choices.
How did we even survive those times with all of these crazy...
We did and we didn't.
Cha.
There was a lot of early mortality rates at the time. Now that's a big common misconception though of colonial era, so I always like to correct people on that because they talk about like, oh, the life expectancy in the 18th century, you'd live to be like in your 30s. That's super wrong. That number had to average in the infant mortality rate, and the infant mortality rate was about 70 to 80% at the time.
Wow, really?
That is why a woman may bear and bring to birth 15, 20 children throughout her lifetime, and she has 3 make it to adulthood. That infant mortality rate was staggering at the time, just because of lack of knowledge of things, lack of proper nutrition, all of the childhood diseases that we didn't have any options for at the time. So that brings that number down. So if you were hardy enough to make it through all the childhood diseases, to make it through just life in general, it's not uncommon for people to live to be into their 70s, their 80s in the colonial era and around that time period. Like, it's not unheard of that just people have this common misconception that people didn't live very long. So you had a lot going against you, so we did lose a lot of people, but people learned and we made some progress. Like at the time with diseases, smallpox, big deal. They didn't have vaccinations, but they were just starting to do inoculations for smallpox at the time.
What's an inoculation?
An inoculation is where they give you a weakened version of the live virus. There was a few different methods of how they would inoculate people at the time. One of the main ones is they would find someone that had smallpox that was getting over it. So they'd still have like the sores on them, but they were getting better on their own somehow. They would take one of those, cut it open, and then cut you with it.
Oh.
So then you would be getting some of that fluid from that other person into you, and then because they were getting over it, it wouldn't affect you as much. There's another one that you would take like a needle and thread and run it through a sore of somebody that had it, and then put it through your skin. So whatever conveyance method, but it would allow it to get into your system. But since they were getting over weakened virus, you wouldn't have as strong of symptoms. You could get over the smallpox virus, and now you're immune to it. So that's what we had at the time, but that was just starting, and that was still something that not everyone was really accepting, because you were giving yourself smallpox. Who in their right mind would do that? But some of the doctors were trying to spearhead this, so it was starting to get movement. And then over time we developed vaccinations, which is giving you the dead virus as opposed to a live, up and running version.
What else did you think that was the most interesting?
Just in the job in general, I still have to say I just like making people faint. That was my favorite part.
Telling everybody the worst part. Like I'm over here cringing. Like, ew.
Well, it was a fun thing, because people that came and like visit, and you give the tour, and they get super squeamish, and people drop like flies. So it was just fun to, as kind of a mean thing as the docents that worked there, as we keep track of who had the most fainters.
They would really faint?
All the time.
Oh, wow.
All the time. There's a combination of things, like people that are imaginative, and you kind of get a little, and you're having this person tell you these things while they're showing you the instruments. You have a strong imagination, but also, it's tourists. They've been out walking all day. They probably haven't had their,
water?
Yeah, enough water for the day. So they're already in a bad space to begin with, and they just hit the floor. So yeah, which is tons of fun. That was always a fun thing to try and get people to. My favorite one is on a cop faint once. A police officer was in there with a couple of his buddies just doing touristy stuff, and he fell forward though onto the table in the surgical room. So he fell into.
You have a surgical room there?
Because it's the apothecary and the surgery. So half of it talked about the medicine part, and then you go into the other room, and then you talk about amputations and bleedings and trephinings, even if you're not supposed to, and other stuff like that.
That's crazy.
So,
I was about to be like, hey, you should give me a tour, but now I'm like, ew, I might faint.
Oh yeah, some people do that. Sometimes people just kind of bang themselves up a little bit, but it is a wooden floor, so there was the one time the lady broke her jaw.
Oh my God.
I didn't give that to her, but I was there to watch it. But
like, high five.
Pretty much. Like, oh, that was a tooth I just saw slip across the floor, which I did. Like, she hit the floor, and you saw like.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she was on vacation.
That's
spent
crazy.
The rest of her vacation with her jaw wired shut.
Oh my God. That's.
So yeah, and but we learned to identify the signs. So I have to say, a weird upside to this is I have learned I can identify a fainter very easily. People lose their color first. They always turn white as a sheet. Like you just see like pale. Like, and then they start to get a little bit of this like glazed sort of look, and then you have to watch, because people, unlike Hollywood and everything else, they do not faint backwards. They do not go straight down. People fall forwards face first.
Huh.
They faint every time.
What about, do you feel like there's ghosts there?
Oh yeah, of course there is.
I know, but I mean...
oh, there is. No, I mean, I've dealt with them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like,
No,
do they
they're
move
very
your stuff around?
They like to undress us.
Shut the front door.
No, they like.
Why am I just now hearing this?
No, it was the aprons. Oh, the aprons and apron strings. Oh, he was so naughty.
Really?
He did that to all the ladies. Still does.
All right, I'm getting eyed funny. Let's go finish this somewhere.
Okay.
Let's do it. All right. So, Where were we at?
Ghost stories.
Ghost stories, yeah. So the aprons? It would really try to take off your apron?
Yes.
How?
And we would experiment with that because you have your aprons that are tied in the back.
Yeah.
And we'd just be giving tours or just going about our business, and our aprons would fall off all the time. Our aprons would fall off, and we were like, that's so weird. Like we hadn't been near anything to be like, oh, it got caught on something. Or then we'd practice and be like, all right, we're going to put it in like double knots. Triple knots.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you know that it wasn't just a fabric that?
But so no, we'd play around with it and we'd do multiple knots on it, and we'd still be in the middle of a tour, and our apron would fall off.
Really?
And you couldn't feel anything. It's not like I felt like, oh, it's like a weird tugging, or you never felt like the knot undo itself. It would just slip off.
Wow.
So yeah, that would happen a lot. We would have doors slam a lot when there would be no like, oh, the AC or like the usual, like it was a draft or something. The doors would slam shut enough that, you know, they'll rattle the whole place for no reason. But the biggest one that for me that would happen a lot is hearing somebody walking around upstairs. And that, a lot of people didn't like the ghost experiences there. We had a lot of people quit because they had something spooky happen. But yeah, there's a lot of footsteps upstairs where you could hear very distinctive, like heavy male booted footsteps just walking around upstairs.
Wow.
And you're in the building that you know full well. You know, this is January in tourist season, so there's nobody in there. I know that no one is in that building. I'm in there by myself. No one has been in there for the last 4 hours. There's no way anybody snuck in. There's no other sounds that could make that noise. You can't mistake the sound of somebody walking around in boots. And yeah, go up there, nobody, nothing, absolutely nothing.
So would it be while you're giving tours and while you're there by yourself?
The aprony stuff would happen when people would be there, but the hearing stuff walking around was generally either you'd be by yourself or it would just be you and like one other person there. So some people hated it. We had a lot of people that would quit, that you just find them, they would be sitting outside with the door locked as you were doing like a change in shift, and they were like, I quit, you know, this happened today, I don't feel comfortable in this building, and then they just not even finish their shift and they just walk out.
Wow.
They'd be done.
Wow, that's crazy.
So yeah, that's what I ran into the apothecary. I had a few things happen at the tavern too when I was up there. That was the one time that I felt somebody come up and squeeze my shoulder in the room that I was by myself. That was super creepy.
What was the tavern?
The Rising Sun Tavern.
What is that?
That was another historical property here in town, but currently and for years they do first-person interpretive tours there of what it was like to travel in the 18th century. So they have it as a first-person interpretive spot for tavern life.
Oh.
So you can learn neat things up there about like the history of mind your P's and Q's, that turn of phrase.
Cool.
You can see a really cool 18th century mousetrap, which is super brutal, super gross, but very interesting. So yeah, there's that one.
Where's the tavern at?
That's on Caroline Street as well. That's I think that's on the 13 or 1400 block.
Huh. Okay. I never even knew that it was there.
Yeah, no, they have cool tours there. That's a neat spot.
So you worked at the tavern also?
That one I just volunteered at some. So yeah, mostly worked at the apothecary. I worked at the Rising Sun Tavern, but I volunteered at other spots.
So you said the ghost there just squeezed your shoulders? Wow.
But I know that other people have had experiences there, but I wasn't up there enough. But that was my one that I had at the tavern. But
wow.
Being at the apothecary for years, the other stuff happened all the time.
Huh.
So I just tried to play nice and know that, you know, if there's a spirit in the building, I'd just be cool with it. And it seemed to like it when I would sing. So if I had sort of, you know, if it was being extra active, I'd just sing some dumb little song, and then it seemed to quiet down. So at least that's what I thought.
Really? And so like walk, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, stop walking. It was just like, oh, that's pretty. Nighttime. Time to take a nap.
Yeah. Settle down now.
Huh. Well, that's crazy. I didn't even know any of this. Wow, I keep learning new stuff about you. All right, I'm gonna